Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever worried about getting a call for like a really old debt, something you barely even remember?
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why, understanding the statute of limitations on debt is so important.
Right. It sounds like a key piece of knowledge, a sort of a legal shield.
Exactly. Think of it as a deadline, basically. A legal time limit for creditors or debt collectors to actually sue you to collect a debt.
A deadline. Okay.
And once that deadline passes, that time period expires. Well, they might still contact you, send letters, call.
But they can't take you to court.
Correct. Their power to sue you legally. Gone. It's about fairness, really. Stops lawsuits based on super old info that might not even be accurate anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. So this deadline, how long are we talking? Is it like a year? 10 years?
Well, that's where it gets a little complex. It really varies.
Varies how?
It depends heavily on, first, your state. Each state has its own rules. And second, the type of debt makes a difference, too.
So like a credit card debt might have a different time limit than, say, a medical bill.
Precisely. Or a personal loan. But generally speaking, for most states, you're often looking at a window of maybe 3 to 6 years.
3 to 6 years. Okay.
But, and this is important, some states do go longer. You might see 10 years, maybe even more in some specific cases. So you really, really need to know the law in your particular state.
Gotcha. Crucial to check local laws. And when does this timer actually start? The 3 to 6 year clock, when does it begin ticking?
Good question. Typically, the clock starts running from the date of your last payment on that specific debt.
Last payment date. Okay.
Or sometimes it could be the last date you formally acknowledge the debt in writing, like confirmed, yes, this is my debt.
Right. That makes sense. Now, I've heard about something called re-aging a debt. That sounds potentially tricky. What's that about?
Yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for. It's kind of a trap you can fall into.
How so?
Well, in some states, again, it varies if you make any payment, even a tiny one, on a debt that's already old, potentially past that statute of limitations. Or sometimes even just promising to pay over the phone or acknowledging it's yours, that action can be seen legally as reaffirming the debt.
And that resets the clock.
Exactly. It could restart the entire statute of limitations all over again, like hitting a reset button on that legal deadline we talked about.
Wow. Okay, so that's a huge heads up. If someone calls about a very old debt.
The golden rule, don't agree to pay anything. Don't even necessarily acknowledge it's yours right away.
Pause first.
Yes, pause. First, figure out your rights. Check if that statute of limitations might have already expired for that debt in your state.
Okay. So let's say the time is expired. The debt is time barred, as they say. Does it just vanish? Poof.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't just disappear completely. The debt itself still technically exists.
So what does expired mean then, practically?
Practically, it means they can't sue you. But it can still linger on your credit report.
Ah, the credit report. For how long?
Usually it can stay on there for up to 7 years from the date the account first went delinquent, the original default date.
7 years. Okay. And collectors.
They might still contact you. They can still call or send letters trying to get you to pay voluntarily.
Yeah.
They just can't use the courts to force you.
Got it. They lose the legal hammer, essentially.
That's a good way to put it. And here's another key point. If a collector does try to sue you for a debt where the statute of limitations has clearly passed, that action itself is illegal. It violates fair debt collection practices.
So you have recourse.
Absolutely. You have the right to go to court and use the expired statute of limitations as your defense. And depending on the circumstances, you might even be able to sue the collector for illegal practices.
Okay, powerful stuff. So if you get contacted about an old debt, maybe even receive court papers, what's the absolute first step you should take?
Your first critical move should be to demand debt validation in writing.
Validation, meaning what exactly?
You ask the collector to provide written proof of the debt. They need to show you details like who the original creditor was, the account number, the amount they claim you owe, and crucially,
the date of last activity.
Yes, that date of last payment or activity is key to figuring out the statute of limitations. You have a legal right under federal law to request this validation.
And doing this in writing seems important.
Extremely important. Always communicate with debt collectors via certified mail, return receipt requested if possible, keep copies of everything.
Avoid phone calls.
It's generally safer, yes. Unless you're meticulously recording the call, which has its own legal rules, or taking detailed notes. A written trail is your best protection against misunderstandings or disputes later on.
Makes sense. Creates a clear record.
Precisely.
So wrapping this up then, really understanding this statute of limitations thing, it empowers you, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It gives you the knowledge to handle those calls or letters about old debts without panic, make informed choices, and avoid falling into traps like accidentally re-aging the debt.
It prevents you from being potentially forced to pay something you're no longer legally obligated to pay via lawsuit.
Exactly. And thinking bigger picture, this is just one example of consumer protection laws. Being aware of your rights, these kinds of regulations, it's just fundamental to managing your finances effectively and maintaining your financial well-being.
Definitely food for thought. Knowing the rules of the game is half the battle. Thanks for breaking that down for us.
My pleasure. It's important information to have.
If this podcast helped you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep making these videos. Thanks for watching.